Mathematics 6, quarter number 1, week number 5, lesson number 5. Multiplication of numbers with two decimal place factors. After going through this lesson, you are expected to multiply decimals and mixed decimals up to 2 decimal places. After going through this lesson, you are expected to multiply mentally decimals up to 2 decimal places by 0.1, 0.01, 10, and 100. You are expected to solve routine and non-routine problems involving multiplication of decimals and mixed decimals including money using appropriate problem-solving strategies. For our review, tingnan naman natin ang decimal place value chart. Mahalaga ito para makita natin ang value ng mga numbers after the decimal point. 786.4329. What are the place value of the numbers after the decimal point? The value of 4 is tens, and the value of 3 is hundredths. The value of 2 is thousands. The value of 9 is 10 thousands. In multiplying a decimals by another decimal, you can multiply them as if they are whole numbers. In placing the decimal point in the product, get the sum of the number of decimal places in each factor. So parang nagmumultiply lang tayo ng whole number by whole number. Example, Sophia spent 0.58 hours sewing an apron and 0.03 times as much to put the finishing touches on it. How long did it take her to do the finishing touches? To solve the problem, we have the steps to follow. For step number 1, we have multiply by the hundredths. 0.58 times 3, 174. Multiply by tens. 0.58 times 0. That would give us 0, 0, 0. Take note, any number na i-multiply natin sa 0, ang sagot niya lahat ay 0. Kaya 0.58 times 0, ang binigay niyang sagot sa atin ay 3 0. Step number 3, multiply by the ones. Ones dyan ay ang whole number natin, which is 0. So, 0.58 times 0, that would give us another 3 zeros. Bakit nga ba ulit 3 0 yan? Kasi nga, ang minumultiply natin sa 0 ay 3 numero. Okay? Kaya 0. Then, we have number 4. For our step number 4, we have to add the partial products. So, we have 174 for the hundredths. We have 3 zeros for the tens. And we have another 3 zeros for the ones. And then, remember na kailangan din nating bilangin kung ilang decimal places ang bawat numero na ating minumultiply. Nang sa ganon, ay makuha natin ang tamang paglagay ng decimal point or yung decimal numbers na ating kailangang makuha. Sabi dito, note that we need to count the number of decimal places from the right para makuha natin ang tamang sagot. So, kung 4 na decimal places, we have 4, 7, 1, 0, and then the decimal point, and then the ones value. So, we have, it took Sophia 0.0174 hour to do the finishing touches on the apron. For learning task number 1, put the decimal point in the correct place. Add 0 if needed. Write your answer in your notebook. So for number 1, we have 1.52 times 2.05. Ang sagot nating nakuha ay 31160. Saan natin ilalagay ang decimal point? For number 1. Then for number 2, we have 6.22 times 2.11. So we got the product, 131,242. So saan natin ilalagay ang decimal point dyan? So if we have 4 decimal places, we have to count numbers from the right kung ilang decimal place natin ilalagay ang ating decimal point. So for number 3, we have 2.28 times 1.56. So we have the numbers 35568. Saan natin ilalagay ang decimal point? Same with number 4, 1.60 times 0.25. Ang nakuha nating sagot ay ang 04000. Ngayon, saan natin ilalagay ang decimal point? For number 5, we have 6.34 times 0.61. So kung bibilangin natin yan, 4 na decimal places yan. So we have 0.34. So from the right, we have 4, 3, and then decimal. So decimal places nga yan, 2 decimal places. And then ganun din yung sa ating 0.61, 2 decimal places. Kung bibilangin mo kung ilang decimal places yan, 4 yan. So we have to count numbers from the right para makuha natin ang tamang decimal point or paglagay o kung saan natin tamang ilalagay ang ating decimal point. To multiply decimals, dapat nating tandaan, we have to ignore the decimal points and multiply as if they are whole numbers. Second, place the decimal point in the product based on the total number of decimal places and the factors. And lastly, in multiplying a decimal by a whole number, the number of decimal places in the product is the same as that in the decimal factor. For learning task number 2, find the product, write your answer in your notebook or in your paper. So for number 1, we have 3.53 times 1.25. For number 2, 2.32 times 2.31. For number 3, 2.42 times 1.56. Number 4, 0.85 times 0.54. And then for number 5, 0.15 times 0.55. Next to learn is about how to multiply decimals or decimal numbers mentally by powers of 10. Multiplying decimals by power of 10 tell us how many places it is moved when multiplying by 10 to the first power. For learning task number 3, multiply the following. Write your answer in your notebook. So we have 5.045 times 0.79 or 0.79. Number 2, we have 0.978 times 0.68. For number 3, we have 2.804 times 26. Number 4, we have 0.073 times 0.05. For number 5, the last number, we have 0.36 times 0.9. Multiplying by power of 10 can be solved mentally. It is just by moving the decimal point to the left and right based on the number of decimal places. We can also solve mentally and find estimated products by rounding each number to the highest place value. The following examples involves multiplying by 10, 100, and 1000, and multiplying by 0.1, 0.01, and 0.001. Example number 1. A plane travels at a rate of 0.15 km per second. How far does it travel in 10 seconds, 100 seconds, and 1000 seconds? we have to multiply 10 times 0.15. Move the decimal point one step to the right. Next, we have 100 times 0.15, that is 15. Ano naman ang sinabi dito? We have to move the decimal point 2 steps to the right. Dalawang steps naman papuntang kanan, kaya nakuha natin si 15. Next, for 1,000, we have 1,000 times 0.15. That gives us 150. Ano ang sinabi? Move the decimal point 3 steps to the right. Then add zeros if needed. Kaya nakuha natin si 1.5, 15, 1.5 for 10, 15 for 100, and 150 for 1,000. 10 times 0.15 equals 1.5, or 10 to the power of 1 by or times 0.15 equals to 1.5. 100 times 0.15 equals 15, or 10 to the power of 2 times 0.15 equals 15. Next, 1,000 times 0.15 equals 150, or 10 to the power of 3 times 0.15 equals 150. Remember, the exponent of 10 indicates the number of times you have to move the decimal point to the right. So, nakikita nyo, yung 10 to the power of 1, we have isang decimal place lang yan. So, kaya nakuha natin si 1.5. 10 to the power of 2, dalawang places yan. Kaya nakuha natin si 15. So, yung 0.15 naging 15. Yung 10 to the power of 3, ibig sabihin yan, 3 decimal places yan. Kaya nakuha natin si 150. In multiplying decimals by 0.1, 0.01, or 0.001, we count the numbers of zeros in 0.1, 0.01, or 0.001, then move the decimal point to the left based on the number of decimal places. Example, 15 times 0.01, we have 1.5, or 15 times 10 to the power of negative 1. And then, 15 times 0.01 equals 0.15, or 15 times 10 to the power of negative 2. 15 times 0.001 equals 0.015, or 15 times 10 to the power of negative 3. Remember that the negative exponent indicates the number of times you are going to move the decimal point to the left. Halimbawa, itong 10 to the power of negative 1, ibig sabihin yan ang 15 times 0.01, isang decimal place lang tayo mag-move para maglagay ng decimal point. So, in the case of 15 times 0.01, nagiging 1.5 siya. Okay, from 15 nagiging 1.5 kasi minultiply na nga natin siya sa 0.01. Okay, isang zero lang kasi. So in the case of 15 times 0.01, negative 2 naman siya, ibig sabihin dalawang places naman siya to the left. Okay? So dalawang zero na kasi. So nagiging 0.15 ang 15. So 2 decimal places na to the left. Okay? So in the case of 15 times 0.001, so tatlong zero na yan, ibig sabihin, so we have, sabi dito, ang exponent niya ay 10 to the power of negative 3. Ibig sabihin, tatlong decimal places ang ating paglalagyan ng decimal point. So in this case, 15 times 0.001, that is 0.015. Okay? Learning task number 4. Complete the table. Multiply each number as indicated in each column. Write your answer in your notebook. So for number 1, 4.86 times 10 to the power of 1 times 10 to the power of 2 and then times 10 to the power of 3. For number 2, we have 55.105 times 10 to the power of 1 times 10 to the power of 2 and then times 10 to the power of 3. For number 3, we have 37.248 times 10 to the power of 1 and times 10 to the power of 2 and then times 10 to the power of 3. For number 4, 8.0003 times 10 to the power of 1 times 10 to the power of 2 and times 10 to the power of 3. For number 5, we have 5.4813 times 10 to the power of 1 times 10 to the power of 2 and then times 10 to the power of 3. In solving routine and non-routine problems, you can use at least one of the 4 mathematical operations na madalas na nating naririnig, napapakinggan, at paulit-ulit natin siyang ginagawa every time na nagsosolve tayo ng problems. And to help you clearly understand the problems, there are steps that you should follow. First, understand the problem and determine the given data or facts. Second, know what is being asked. Third, make the number sentence and solve. And last, check if your answer will satisfy the problem. In learning task number 5, solve the given problems. How many centavos are there in 125.75 pesos? For number 2, from a roll of cotton containing 24.75 meters, a seller sold 9.85 meter at 22.25 pesos per meter. How many meters were left? Number 3, Sam can ride his bicycle a kilometer in 6.2 minutes. At this rate, how long will it take him to ride 4 kilometers? Maraming salamat sa pakikinig at pakikiisa.